Hello, welcome back to the Ramswriter podcast. As usual, I'm your host Simon, and today, again, by popular demand, I'm joined again by Richard Cusack. Richard, good evening. How are you? Are you well?
Hi, yeah, I'm fine, thanks. I don't quite know about popular demand, but it's always nice to be wanted.
I want you if no one else does, mate. It's all right.
Top man, top man.
So, the season is upon us. We're now 3 days away from Barrow in the Carabao Cup. It's come round awfully quick. Are we ready? Are we ready for football again? Are we ready for competitive football again? Are you ready, Richard? I know I am.
Oh, I'm ready. Yeah. I know it wasn't long, and since the season ended just over a month, wasn't it? But I think that sort of lockdown period was such a long time, wasn't it? That I think we're all ready for football to return, and I think despite what we'll touch upon this later, that despite the lack of transfer activity in terms of bringing in wingers or forwards, I think this squad showed so much towards the back end of last season that even though they ultimately fell short, showed enough to get excited about in terms of the new campaign. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we did. I mean, I think the only real blow is that we've lost Chris Martin. Obviously he's still a free agent. There's potential that we could re-sign him as a free agent, but obviously we've not heard anything about that. But yeah, I think we know as a squad that we have got some strength there. We've had pre-season games. Pre-season's pre-season. At the end of the day, it's nothing but a fitness test essentially. We've not. I think we've won one game, haven't we, out of the four, and lost two or something daft and drawn one. But it's not that, isn't it? We played Sheffield United yesterday. That was obviously on Rams TV. If you're able to catch that, I did, and I'd say that the first half, I think we played fine. We played some really. We switched to three at the back, which is something we discussed on our last show. Would we switch formation to three? We're bringing in the likes of Taveric and obviously Matt Clark, who we did mention could be a very big possibility that we sign. He did sign like the day after. So three at the back then. That's what we set up yesterday. And we had the back three of Forsyth, Evans, and Taveric. Wing backs then for the first half were Buchanan and Bogle. And I think Rooney was injured, so he wasn't in the squad. So we had Bird, Holmes, and Shinnie in midfield, and then Marriott and Louis Sibley up front. And you look at that on paper and you think, that's not bad, especially considering we're missing the likes of Bielik, the likes of Lawrence, the likes of Waghorn. And to be honest, the first half, especially yesterday, we did play, I thought we played well. We didn't, the problem was we didn't really threaten enough. Marriott had an overhead kick from about 8 yards that went over the bar, and I think Sibley had a cross-come shot that the keeper had to tip over the bar. But other than that, there wasn't just that clinical edge in the final third. So, yeah, we're still, I think, far from the completed article. We still do need to add. But at the end of the day, yeah, we lost 2-0 to a Premier League side. In the second half, we got battered, I suppose. We weren't our best. But you make 9 changes. You mix the squad in. You get lots of the young lads in. We had Harrison Solomon, who came in, I think, was he 16, 17, came in at centre-back. And you know what? He did a decent job. So yeah. I think pre-season is one of them, though, isn't it? You look at it and you go, I want to win every game. But you can win every game and start the season poorly. And I think I've seen us lose every game pre-season and then start the season well. So what do you think? I mean, are you bothered about pre-season games? Especially how it is. Normally, obviously, you play everybody. Everyone gets a few minutes, and towards the end of it, you sort of start playing your full strength squad. But I just think with how it is this season, it just wasn't the case. It's all about getting minutes in the legs, isn't it?
Pre-season for me is normally a nice chance to get down to places like Ilkeston or Matlock or Belper. Nickel Over Sports as well always get a game against Derby, don't they? So I like that kind of aspect of pre-season, which is obviously it's a shame we've missed out on that this summer, amongst other things. But I also think that pre-season is important for minutes in the tank. It's important for the manager to sort of look at his squad and see who's at with various fitness levels. I also think that, and I don't want to sound like I'm putting Barrow down or being disrespectful towards them, because I think what the club have done is just a fantastic achievement getting back into the Football League. But I think that Philip Cocu, manager, may almost treat Saturday's game like a bit like the final friendly in many ways. I know obviously David Marshall's away, so he won't play, but it's another chance to look at the team in a obviously a competitive environment as well that doesn't quite have the edge that the league brings. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the manager lines up, having seen 3 at the back, 5 at the back, whichever way you want to spin it, played against Sheffield United. And I think it's important to see that Derby do have a very viable plan B, because we've seen in the last few seasons that when Derby's first option, preferred way of playing isn't working, some managers they don't tend to deviate too far away from their preferred game plan. So I think that the emergence of a viable option of 3 at the back or 5 at the back is really important for Derby. And one of the things that I've noticed particularly was that when discussing with my friends or on social media how to line up with 3 midfielders and two forwards, you often wonder where that number 10 is going to sit. Well, if you can play Lewis Sibley or Tom Lawrence off the striker, that might be a good way of incorporating Jack Marriott into the game and keeping the threat of Lewis Sibley and Tom Lawrence on the pitch. So it was good to see the manager experimenting with that as well. Encouraging signs, I thought, especially given the quality of Sheffield United. And I know Dwayne Holmes said it in his post-match interview with the club as well, that Sheffield United finished, the top half of the Premier League last season. They're absolutely not to be sniffed at. A very good workout against a quality opposition, and one that will stand us in good stead for the opening game of the season on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all it's about. It's testing yourself into it, really. I mean, I think Holmes also said as well that this 3 at the back was an option that they've been working on quite a lot in this pre-season, and it is, like you say, it's potentially a plan B if things aren't working. Let's go switch to a 3 at the back or a 5 at the back, we don't want to call it, and get 2 up top, get some more attacking players on. And yeah, I don't disagree with you about the Barrow. The Barrow game, yeah, they were non-league, obviously last season, got promoted League 2. They're going to be up for this. This is their first competitive game in sort of, not in the league, but obviously against a championship side, so they're going to be well up for this. But I do agree that, yeah, we probably will still see the sort of players, some young kids in there, and obviously, you see seasoned pros. But yeah, no, it's going to be, I think it'll be a good test, obviously before the Reading game on the 12th, which obviously we're all looking forward to. Shame we can't be there. But just going on then this season, what are your sort of expectations? Are we looking at top 2? Are we looking at top 6? Or are we looking at another sort of mid-table sort of season again?
I said playoffs. I looked at the playoffs before lockdown, and when Derby was it 5 or 6 points off the playoffs when they beat Blackburn in March, and I kind of said, look, we ought to be going for the playoffs. We have good enough players. We have Wayne Rooney, despite everything that's happened before in the season. And I maintain, as long as Derby had a couple of options in the wide areas and up front, which obviously we'll talk about later on, the transfer search, I think with a Derby side with a fully fit and firing Wayne Rooney in it, a championship side with someone like him always has a chance of going for promotion. I feel like I'm nailing my colours to the mast here, but I really am. I also think that it's important to note that Derby have made quick and smart moves to sort the defence and the goalkeeping situation out. You had a player like David Marshall who was fantastic for Wigan. We can't underestimate how crucial that is. That as an addition to Derby, bringing Matt Clark back, a bit of continuity at the back to go with Dutch Mike Tavarik, who is one of the new guys in. He's obviously going to play alongside Matt Clark at the back. That's another important addition. So if we can just add a bit of a sprinkling of talent up top in the form of a winger and a striker, or two or three new additions further up the pitch, I don't see why we can't be aiming for the top 6 at least. And in a division that looks very, very, I know I seem to say this all the time, but it looks like a division that will struggle this season, because the likes of Watford, who've come down, they've not spent. Bournemouth haven't come down. they've both got rookie managers in, haven't they, for the at championship level? And I know Jason Tindall's obviously been at Bournemouth for a while under Eddie Howe. So if those two teams coming down, you think Norwich might fancy it. Nottingham Forest might go again for promotion. They probably will. So I think in terms of the top 6 or 7 or 8 teams in the division, Derby definitely have to be considered as one of those, providing they get a few more additions through the door.
That's why with the Championship, isn't it? It's so unpredictable.
If it made sense financially, I'd like to compete in the Championship every year, but unfortunately it doesn't.
No, this is very true. Just another thing as well. George Evans, new contract. Is it 2-year deal? I think he signed.
He signed a 1-year extension.
1-year extension.
Which will keep him at the club for another couple of years. Yeah.
What do we make of that? He's been a sort of, well, obviously Lampard brought him in, and he's never really nailed down a place, has he? We've seen some good performances from him. We've seen some poor performances from him, but he seems to. I don't know. He seems to be just a player that can come in and, when called upon, he'll do what's asked of him. He's not one to sort of moan. I want game time. I want this. And I think we've seen a better George Evans when he's played centre back. I remember yesterday in the game against Sheffield United, I think he won the ball in his half and then continued to run, and he ended up crossing the ball into the box from the Sheffield United byline. So, yeah, some people have gone, why are we giving him another contract? But if we are going to switch or try and use a 3 or 5 at the back, Evans is, for me, he's someone that can fit in that role. He can do that role. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet, and that's what Koku wants. I think that's why he likes that. He likes his defenders to be good with the ball at the feet. I mean, we saw it with Mike Taveric yesterday. He switched to right wing back in the second half. Very comfortable with the ball at his feet. You can tell he's Dutch. You know what I mean? Very composed on the ball. He's not bothered if he's got players coming to him. Picks out his passes. He'll try and take players on as well. And you saw I actually saw the leadership side of him come out. Obviously, Max Bird wore the captain's armband yesterday. Fair play to him. But you could see Taveric has been a captain, because when just before the second half started, the camera zoomed into him and he was giving young Harrison Solomon loads of advice, and giving him a thumbs up and everything, and trying to get him going, sort of thing. So yeah, I do like the look of Taveric. From we're not, obviously no one's really seen a great deal of him, but yeah, I do like what I'm seeing of him. But yeah, just going back to Evans, what are you happy with that? Were you happy with him getting another contract?
I thought it made perfect sense. It was a no-brainer in many aspects, really. I think someone like George, Frank Lampard saw quality in him during his academy days at Man City, which when Lampard was there, that prompted him to move for him. I remember him impressing really well on his debut. This is obviously a couple of years ago now against Ipswich, and then the dreaded knee injury ruled him out a bit. He has struggled with injury, hasn't he,
yeah.
George Evans? But aside from obviously a poor first 45 minutes at Aston Villa the season before last, I can't think of too many poor performances when he's come in and played. He obviously was immense against Bristol City a couple of seasons ago, and he put in a similar performance against was it Preston and after lockdown.
Yes,
he filled in at centre back there, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And I thought he played really, really well. And he just brings a calmness, a composure, and he looks to me like the sort of player who thrives on not being in the heat of the battle, but taking a step further back and seeing the game unfold in front of him. I know Steve Nicholson said something similar on a Facebook Live chat with me last week, and he's a sort of player who is much better with the ball at his feet and can see what's happening in front of him. His positional awareness and defence is very good, and he's a very good player, for a squad player for the manager to have. It made no sense. It made absolutely loads of sense for Evans to sign a new deal, and I was really, really. He's a player who, if he stays fit and can nail it, is an asset to have. And the problem with George with his injuries, which is just very unfortunate, is we haven't seen enough of that, have we?
Yeah, no.
But just quickly on Taveric, I think and I've mentioned this to you before, but in a couple of interviews he's done, he's come across as very charismatic and very sort of like he's settled in already. And I know he's been at the club a while because he joined up with them after he became official in June. And I think it's important that he's obviously embedded in within the squad already, and
Yeah.
he's got that character. Obviously, the language barrier doesn't seem to be a problem at all. And so, yeah, he seems like a good addition already, given what we've seen of his leadership traits, his characteristics and stuff. And let's just hope that translates to on the pitch performances. I'm excited to see what we get from Mike Tavares.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what we've got now, though, is real good competition for centre backs. For years it's always been Keogh and somebody, isn't it? Keogh Tomori, Keogh and Buxton, Keogh and Shackle.
It did seem to become a situation where the centre backs were undroppable, weren't they?
Yeah.
A few seasons ago, simply because there weren't any other options. I do remember that being said quite a fair bit. And like you say, Si, I think now we've got genuine options, which is all well and good, because Derby conceded 64 goals last season. No team in the top 10 conceded more, and Derby conceded the most, 6 more than Cardiff, who finished in 5th, by a long stretch. So yeah, definitely an area that Derby needed to get sorted, and I'm glad we have.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's neat. I think it's been an area that's been needed for addressing for a long time now. But now, like you say, we've got Clark, we've got Tavares, we've got Wisdom, Davis. He can still do a job. Evans, I think Forsyth. I think Forsyth would be better in a back 3 than he will in a back 4. So the options are there, which is great. And now it's obviously, I think the midfield were all right. We likes of Bird, Rooney, Bielik, Shinnie, Holmes, Sibley. If you want to put him in the midfield, I think we're fine there. We now have to address the wide situation. Obviously, we've got Lawrence that can play there, who I suppose isn't really a natural winger. However, he's played there since he joined us. Was it 4 years ago now? 3 years ago? And then I think striking options as well. Now we've obviously only got seasoned pro strikers. We've only got Marriott and Waghorn. Obviously, we've got young Hector Ingham coming in. Whittaker, he can also obviously plays up top as well. But I think obviously the wide areas do need addressing, and one transfer, I suppose, at the moment that won't go away is that one of I'll mess up his name, but it's Kamil Jozwiak, who is obviously at Lech Poznan at the moment. Obviously, it's been mental on Twitter in Poland that they've convinced probably about 90% of the Derby County fans that he is coming to Derby. However, then we've got you guys saying that from Derby, that's not what we're hearing. Today on your live as well, I think Steve said that, okay, yeah, there could be something in it. But then again, later on today at 5:30, we get another article saying, no, there's still nothing in it. So is it going to be one of them transfers that just doesn't go away until he's gone to another club? Because obviously he's available from the sounds of things. There's interest from Galatasaray, Werder Bremen, us, Southampton as well. So what do you make of it all, mate? What do you make of it all?
I mean, personally, I think that it could very much be a case of the club wanting to sell the player and them trying to drum up some interest in him. That does tend to be the case in transfer windows. I think that what clubs will try and do is I'll try and put the feelers out, and I don't wish to discredit any reports that have come out from Poland. I want to make that clear. I'm just trying to illustrate the situation and what does happen in transfer windows. I think what tends to happen is clubs, when they want to offload a player, and they can use sort of various vehicles to try and get their message out there that he is available. And if you put a rumour out there saying so and so is very close to a transfer, other clubs who are interested in the player might come out, might think, we need to get our skates on here and we need to try and get in before he does move. So the latest from Steve, obviously it's, what day is it tonight? Today it's Wednesday. Now, a couple of hours ago at 5:30, Steve said that reports have said that he's on his way to Derby, but it's not the case, and that contrary to reports as well that he's left Poland's training camp, he's still with the Polish national team. So that's the situation as it stands now. Things can change really quickly, and we've seen that with the Jonathan Panzo rumour around a week ago, 10 days ago. That changed really quickly. So let's just wait and see. I think the reported transfer fee of around £3 to £4 million surprises me, because I wasn't, and I didn't think Derby would be spending that much this summer. But I didn't think they'd be spending £8 million on Christian Bielik or bringing Wayne Rooney in last summer. So I do like to be surprised, and I would like to be surprised. But that's what we understand at the moment. I think Derby will more likely be looking at the loan market to bring a winger or their forwards back in. I know Jacob Murphy's been linked, hasn't he, at Newcastle? He scored in a friendly the other day, and he's out of contract next summer. He doesn't want to be sitting on the sidelines at Newcastle for the last year of his contract, because he'll be looking to get a new club if he does move on. To do that, he needs to impress elsewhere. So he could be one possible option for Derby. But this Yozwiak rumour is one that just won't go away, and it'll be interesting to see what does happen, because perhaps Poznan might lower their price if there is no interest. And I don't know how desperate they are to sell it. Even if they are desperate to sell, I don't know if they are, but I don't know how keen they are to sell him. So I'm not quite sure what their situation is. But one thing that is for certain is that he's a sort of profile of player we'd be looking at, isn't he? He's young, he's 22, he's a Polish international, he's quick and pacey. I haven't seen too much of him apart from 30 minutes on Free Sports last Sunday. When I was doing a little bit of the scouting, my other half said, "Why on earth are you watching a Polish football match on a Sunday afternoon?" I said, "It's all part of the job, So,
oh, I like it. You see, working overtime, mate. Free overtime. That's what that is.
Any excuse to get the game on. But all seriously, he does seem like the sort of profile, doesn't he, side of player we'd be looking to sign.
Yeah, he does. And, we were linked with him in January as well. Obviously, he's good friends with Christian Bielik. And I think he's got, because he's young, because he's an out-and-out winger that likes to take people on. And I've seen him, we've all seen the YouTube clips. Obviously they always show the best of the player, which is what they're there for. And, we haven't seen him in a game week in, week out, but you can judge, I suppose, on the YouTube clips, because there is quite a few of there, and like I say, he's fast. He likes to take people on, he can put balls into the box and he can finish, and 4 million, if that's their asking price, but we've seen Ollie Watkins get, when he went to, when he left Exeter, his price was up here, and that's why Derby didn't sign him. He then went for this much to Brentford, at a lower price. So
I always say that, Si. All it takes is 1.5, 2 good seasons in the Championship, and your value can just skyrocket on it. That's exactly why I think Derby need to be. I know it's going to be difficult this summer because of COVID and the lack of revenues from ticket sales and concessions and etc. advertising revenue, but I do think it's important that Derby, if they can, move for these players who will bring them resale value and have potential to develop, instead of signing the older players, as we have done in recent years.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, obviously you mentioned it there. You said that you're unsure that Derby are going to spend 4 million on a player. Does that mean we need to look at shipping players out? I mean, I think the last rumour I heard was Jayden Bogle potentially going to Fulham. Now, we've heard, obviously, Matty Cash looks like he's moving from Forest to Aston Villa for 16 million, I think it is. And we will say it with a bit of bias, I suppose, but, a lot of people, especially in the Lampard season, would think that Bogle's better than Matty Cash, or how much is he worth? And so there we go. There's your question. How much is Jayden Bogle worth, do you think? And should we cash in on him to buy players if a decent offer came in for him?
I think for a start, Jayden Bogle's obviously got 2 or 3 years on Matty Cash, hasn't he? I think Bogle's only 19 and Cash is 22. He's going to Aston Villa by the looks of it for £14 million, potentially rising to 16. It's an example of Premier League clubs looking to the Championship in this market, isn't it, to get their value, and they're banking on those players adapting to Premier League football pretty quickly. Look at Crystal Palace have done the same with Eberechi Eze from Queen's Park Rangers.
Very good player.
Saeed Benrahma's constantly being linked. Ben White back to Leeds before he signed his new deal with Brighton.
Watkins again.
Watkins, of course, yeah. Would I sell Jayden Bogle? To be honest, I don't think I'd certainly rate him at least £10 million. I know he's had a bit of an off season, campaign just gone, but I think a player his age after playing 40 odd games season before, he would have been absolutely tired out. And another, like most players at Derby, another new manager's sort of tactics and routines to get used to.
Yeah.
I think Jayden Bogle's development's only going to go one way. I'm still not convinced he's even nailed down his position yet, because I think he might end up turning into a winger, a wing back certainly, perhaps potentially a winger.
Yeah, because I think that's what many people would say his downfall is his defending. You know, especially if balls come in at the back post. I feel that he gets sort of aimed at. You know, oh, there's a weak link there, and that's Jayden Bogle with balls at the back post. But yeah, and people, you know, his defence has been criticised. But yeah, I agree personally. I think he will do potentially a Gareth Bale and move forward to a right winger. We saw Gareth Bale go from a left back, and you know he could defend, but he could fly forward. I'm not saying he's in the same league as Gareth Bale. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen it so many times where players start off as like a left back and they'll move to left wing, and I think it will suit Jayden better if he was playing higher at the park. Now, my only criticism of Jayden Bogle at times is you can see him, you know, he'll get the ball out wide and you think, right, go on, take your man on. If you get tackled, you know, try and win a throw in, you know, because we know you've got the skill set to take players on. We've seen it so many times under Lampard.
That's a confidence thing though, isn't it? I think that will come in time, won't it? And he'll back himself to take his man on. And some of the skills he's got in his locker are, you know, really impressive, and he can get himself away and past players quickly. And I think if you're exactly right, Simon. When his game develops, when his game does fully develop, he'll be a very good player. And I think if he has a very good season this season, we could be looking at least 15, 20 perhaps in the summer. And if he plays really well, I think that's where the fascination behind the wing back system has come, isn't it? Because if you could get a situation where Jayden Bogle's not absolved of his defensive responsibilities, but almost released from them a little bit, and you have players who can cover, like Forsyth on one side for Max Lowe, or Lee Buchanan and Wisdom perhaps on the right, who can fill in at right back when Bogle goes forward. You know, using Jayden to the best of his ability, which is giving him solely an attacking brief. And I think that's why supporters are keen to see this, because almost at the moment it feels like Jayden's kind of his reluctance to perhaps take his man and beat his man is that he's scared perhaps of the ball coming back the other way and him being found out on the turn. You know, so perhaps that's why the manager's looking at this new system.
Yeah, because I mean, saw it so many times last season, seen it a couple of times yesterday in the pre-season game, where he'd get the ball out on the wing and then it'd just stop and turn. And I know Cocker wants to play possession-based football. I know that, don't get me wrong. But I saw Lee Buchanan, he played left wing back. Now, I did say in our last pod that I'd like to see him start at left wing back over the likes of Max Lowe and Craig Forsyth. And for me, he's proven that he can do it. You know, he loves flying up and down a wing. You know, he's full of pace, but again, he's got that youthful exuberance that says, you know, I've got no fear. Whereas obviously Jayden Bogle's had that season in the Championship. He knows what it's all about, and he knows that you're not always going to get past your man. So maybe that's, you know, again, you know, it's just that experience, and then going, right, I'm biding my time now. If I feel it's on, I'll take him on. If I don't feel it's on, I will cut back in. And I think with the three at the back, when you've got the likes of, if we play, you know, the three centre backs, you allow the likes of Bogle to get forward, the likes of Buchanan to get forward. When you've got Matt Clark, for instance, George Evans, Taveric, and Wisdom there, you know, that's why for me, I think I would have Clark, Taveric, and Wisdom as my back three, because, you know, Wisdom's got a bit of pace about him. Clark hasn't, but Taveric seems quite nippy. So I think also you've got the fact that Max Bird will drop back in as well. So I just feel, go for the wing back role, stick him up higher at the pitch, and you know we've got that security in defence if things do go wrong.
I think the best of Bogle last season was that little couple of games he had towards the end of January where he put an inch perfect cross in for Chris Martin at Luton, I think it was. That was. I mean, he's got the delivery in his locker. And that's why you say it's quite frustrating at times, because where we sit at the bottom of the East Stand, we're in first half, most games, we're normally obviously Jaden's right in front of us, and it can go down the wing, and then turn and look for a passing, and you're not sure if that's like you say, the manager's sort of desire to keep hold of a ball, perhaps taking hold, or whether it's an innate kind of reluctance to go down the line and take it for fear of losing it.
Yeah.
And then obviously the game after was Stoke City, where he scored one of the goals of the season. To Pride Park in that 4-0 win on deadline day, where he put it in the top. I mean, what a great goal and celebration. So we know that Jaden has it in his locker, and you did it, Si. I mean, not quite. I'm sure Jaden will have a few words to say about that impression, but he's a really good player, and another one I'm excited to see what happens in his third full season of Championship football. This is where you've got to look at kicking on now.
Yeah,
you're no longer one of the academy boys, are you?
No,
you're an established Championship player.
Yeah, I think this is his defining season. Definitely be his defining season, I think. So. Yeah, transfers. We've not really heard of anybody else. There's been not really
Tyler Roberts.
Rumors. Tyler Roberts from Leeds, of all people.
Yeah. Strange one, really. The only sort of Tyler Roberts highlight I can think of in my head is the Leeds Villa game when a season before last, where he didn't pass the ball out and he carried on going and gave it to Klitsch and he scored. I think that was Tyler Roberts, wasn't it?
I'm
pretty sure it was. Anyway, so that's an interesting one. And again, Nico, Telegraph, Derbyshire Live has said that there's nothing in it. Players get linked silly season, isn't it? Players will get linked to Derby. After the way they finished last season, and with Rooney in the team, it's a desirable place that you want to come. I think with the manager and the way the club's going at the moment. I know it's difficult with COVID and stuff, but with Rooney at the helm and in midfield and academy players and a good manager in Koku, it's an interesting one. But I think a few Leeds fans were pointing out that he's not really a winger; he's more of an attacking player, I think, and he plays off the striker. But I don't remember him playing too many games last season for Leeds. I don't remember hearing his name pop up too much.
No, I didn't either, to be honest. So I was a bit. But I think, didn't he play in the last game when they played at Pride Park? I'm sure he played in that game. I think he set up one of the goals or something. I can't remember, but
I didn't really watch, for obvious reasons. I didn't really watch that.
Oh yeah, I mean, but the thing is though, if Koku's seen something in him, then I'm not really bothered if it's Leeds. It could be Nottingham Forest. I still wouldn't care.
Precisely, good players are good players, and you'll take them from wherever.
Exactly, and then the only other transfer news then is Scott Malone and Mason Bennett have both left the club and joined Gary Rowett at Millwall. What do you make of that? I mean, I was, at the end of the season, I think when Bennett went out on loan, I think they turned down the offer that they could have him for 500,000 at the end of the season. Rowett said no, and then I saw Mason Bennett. That he played the first two pre-season games. Malone was stuck in the under-23, so clearly Koku's basically sort of said you need to go find yourself a new project, as he put it. And I think, I think the right move. I think it's probably the best move for both of them. Obviously, Malone will see out his contract at Millwall, and Bennett gets a fresh start. And I think after everything that's happened to him, he's been at Derby now. What, 10 years is it? And I just think his career has gone very stale, very stagnant here. And I think they loved him at Millwall when he was on there. I saw the reaction from the Millwall fans when they seen the sign, and they were very pleased to have him back. So, I think it's a good move for him. I think it's the refresh and the restart that he needs to really kick on and get his career going.
I think he's got a manager who believes in him in Gary Rowett, which is obviously crucial.
Yeah.
Regards Mason Bennett. It's a shame to see Mason depart after what's happened over the last year. Especially given how well he played under Lampard.
Yeah.
That was his best season in his career at Derby in terms of goals and assists and just general performances. And he scored that wonderful goal against Wigan, of course.
Yeah.
A real shame. But the time is right, and that's what happens to players sometimes. The same can be said for Scott Malone as well. I don't think he deserves some of the stick he got from supporters last season. He was a dependable player under Lampard. It didn't perhaps play as well last season, but again, it's another, a couple of players out the door who, Derby fans have been crying out for outgoings
Yeah.
Not always easy to find buyers at the best of times. Never mind in this market. Given that we look to move players on when they get to the end of their contracts or become older. But I think in Malone's case, he will be behind Max Lowe, Craig Forsyth, and now Lee Buchanan at left back. So it's not the right situation for Derby to keep him on and for him to be at the club. So obviously it's a move that suits both parties. And regards Bennett, I did wonder, having seen him start the first couple of pre-season friendlies, I wondered if he'd be a viable option for off the bench or as a winger or an attacker. But obviously Cocky's looking for someone perhaps with a bit more quality. And I did watch Mason Bennett against Forest in the last game before lockdown, Forest versus Millwall on that Friday night.
Yeah,
and he played really, really well. So I can understand why Millwall fans are dead keen to get a player back who, let's be honest, he's still only 24. I know it feels like he's been around for absolutely years, which he has. He's Derby's record youngest goal scorer, isn't he?
Yeah,
and youngest ever player, I think. So
I think he was almost the youngest championship scorer on his debut when he hit the bar against Middlesbrough, I think it was.
Yeah. So he's done it. It's not ended how we all would have liked, but the players are out the door now, and obviously it's a fresh start for Derby and for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, just on Malone, I do feel a bit sorry for him because I think, he was reliable. I thought he was a decent player under Lampard. And in fairness, in the semi-final against Leeds, just before we scored the fourth goal, when Leeds were looking to break out from the back, he gets a little nick on the ball, which makes it go loose, and then Keogh obviously picks it up. Not many people spotted that, and I didn't spot it. I've seen that replay over thousands of times now, and he just gets this little nick in. So if he's not got that nick in, they're away because we've pushed everyone forward by Keogh and Tamori, and they've got about 3-4 men charging forward. So yeah,
and he's obviously sacrificed his Wembley appearance to pick up that second yellow, didn't he?
Yes.
So, he's contributed to the club, hasn't he? And he was a really surprise signing, I remember. It took us completely out of the blue. I don't quite know if it was deadline day, but it was certainly, we didn't really, I didn't get any, I didn't see the rumour doing the rounds like you normally do and then it becoming confirmed. It just kind of happened completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
But they get Millwall get a good dependable player. So, yeah, two players who look likely to have moved on, which is good work from the club, I guess.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a clear out, haven't we, this summer with the likes of Anya, Huddleston, Chris Martin, sadly, Bennett and now Malone. So, yeah, that's the wage bill being cut down a lot. So, and it's a clear out that was needed, I suppose. We did need to get rid of some of these high earners. I think, that we've known that, and that's the route we went down. We brought in high earners, but hey, it's happened now. This is now Cocu's time, Cocu's era. And I guess it's nice to have a manager that's had a season with us already and will take us on to the next season, which is...
See, the thing is, apart from Martin, I can't think of it. I wasn't sort of thinking I'd take any of those players back. Anya, certainly not. Huddleston, classy operator, but, we do have centre midfielders who can fill in.
Yeah,
who can hopefully mitigate his loss. And it's not felt too much. Bennett and Malone, obviously, that's fair. Those departures have happened without massive sort of uproar. So, yeah, like you say, the key thing and the welcome thing is that it's a manager making the decisions.
Yeah,
who was making the decisions last summer. So he's seen the players, he's seen them play, he knows them, and now he's taking an informed decision.
Yeah.
As opposed to relying on other people's kind of verdicts. So, yeah, that's always going to be a positive. And I know we did the season preview earlier on, but that's another reason why I'm kind of optimistic that this season will be a top 6 push, because we have that continuity.
Yeah, I think
which is really, really important.
Absolutely spot on there. So we'll move on to questions then. This one it was on your post on Twitter. It's from a Tyre Original. He says, will Derby spend any money in this window, or will any further transfers be loaned? So obviously we're talking about transfers. That's why I thought I'd read this one out first, because obviously, it's a tough one, isn't it? Are we going to spend any money, or are we just going to go down the loan market?
Derby have used the loan market to varying degrees of success. Obviously, last season's loans weren't great, apart from Matt Clark, obviously.
Yeah.
But the season before helped with the Lampard connection, brought in 3 top-class players. So it wouldn't surprise me if Derby do use the loan market. That might mean we won't see players come in until the last sort of week or two of the transfer window, only because managers in the Premier League or lower league Premier League clubs do like to have a look at the players in the first round of the cup, second round of the cup, or the first couple of games of the season. And I know, case in point, Jacob Murphy, who we've already mentioned, Steve Bruce has already said he wants to take 2 or 3 weeks looking at him. And when he said that last week, so that'll probably take us up to the middle of September already.
Yeah.
We've got until October. I don't see Derby spending a lot of money. I really don't, because of everything that's gone on. Well documented into it. I'd be surprised. But like I said earlier on about Rooney and Bielik, this club is full of surprises.
That's why we love them.
Yeah, exactly.
Lewis Everett on Twitter says, what do you think of the new formation and Lowe or Buchanan? So, new formation, and obviously with a 3-5-2. I think, like we've touched on before, we've all been crying out for it. We've all wanted it. We've now got it. And for me, I said it last week. I said, Buchanan for me starts as that left wing back. What about you?
That's an interesting claim, Matt, because I'm not far off saying the same.
Oh, you said Lowe last week as well.
Yeah, but only because I've been impressed with what I've seen of Buchanan in pre-season, but also because I think Lowe defensively, but also it's not fair because I haven't seen enough of Lowe in a left wing back role. So it would be unfair for me to say that Lowe isn't up for it. I'm not saying that. I don't know if he is, and Buchanan as well. I think it's a really interesting situation because you have 2 players who are quite similar, but Buchanan showcased the best of him at Scunthorpe earlier on last season, and he raced down that left. He flew down the left wing, and I mean, not many players can not only make that run but also finish it off like a centre forward. That was kind of like okay, this kid's decent.
Yeah, he sort of with a bang, because that game was poor. That game was. It wasn't a very good watch at all. And then
like a lot of the academy players, he'd gone back into the academy and sort of had a bit more time with Darren Russell, and like Jason Knight did, didn't he? Came off bench against Huddersfield on the first game and then went back in, and we didn't see him until Christmas. So Lou Buchanan's gone back into the academy, developed himself there as well. Buchanan or Lowe, I've probably been inclined to go for Buchanan.
He's changed his mind.
To be honest, I am. He played against Blues, didn't he, on the last game of the season? I was at St Andrews.
Yeah.
I was really impressed having seen firsthand Lee Buchanan against Blues. I thought he looked really, really sharp. So I was dead impressed. But obviously there was rumours of Max Lowe departing this summer. Obviously that's not going to happen.
I can't see it now.
No, he was linked. Was he linked with Rangers last summer as well? I'm pretty sure he was linked with either way. Yeah. Max Lowe, he is might be younger than me actually. I think he's about 24, isn't he? Coming to 25. So he's 23. Sorry, I'm looking at. I'm putting years on him. 23. So he's got to start making his mark. Sort of making his mark soon and nailing down a place in the team. I know the manager wasn't impressed, was he, last season? He thought him and Jayden Bogle defensively suspect in that Bristol City game, weren't they?
Yes.
So I think just got to nail down their positions now. But options, competitive options, and they drive on. When you've got someone vying for you at that position, it's only a good thing for the club and for both players. Yeah,
of course, for sure. Lucy Hackett. So, Lucy, I didn't read her question out last week. I missed it somehow. she every week, without fail, she gives me a question. So she says, "Hi guys, hope you're well. I thought we gave it a good go versus Sheffield United in the friendly, but didn't manage to score. Jack Marriott looked energetic, running, so he could be looking good for new season." Yes, I was very, 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 very impressed with Jack Marriott. He looked like someone had put a fresh pair of batteries in him, and he could just go and go and go and go. He was everywhere, and he didn't get the chances in front of goal. He didn't, he didn't really get any clear-cut chances. He made a chance with the overhead kick over the bar for himself, but He was everywhere. He was coming short. He was getting in behind. He was chasing lost causes. It looked like we had the Jack Marriott back that went through that purple patch. You know,
I think a couple of people said on our Facebook chat earlier that he looked sharp. And
very.
do you think this is post me earlier? Do you think this looks like a player who knows that the starting role isn't his? For sure, going into the new season, do you think he looks like a player who's looking to try and impress the manager, having missed out pre-season last summer and gone through all his injury struggles that he has? Do you reckon he's a player now looking to say, "This is me. This is who I am. I'm Jack Marriott, and I'm a top striker, and I want to play"?
I totally agree with you. Yeah, let's be honest here. You know, he had that purple patch under Lampard. You know, from about October to January, I suppose. And then he went missing. He was injured. Then there was the rumours of the golf course, you know, and his attitude and all this.
Well, to be fair, we don't know. They haven't been substantiated, have they? We don't know.
No,
there's no suggestion that any of those are. That any of that is true. That's just tattletale and hearsay, isn't it? So
yeah.
You know, let's make that clear, because
Definitely,
I think it's important that, you know, he did come out and he was very, very keen to stress, wasn't he, in an interview with the Juddy Talks podcast, that he was really keen to say, look, you know, I've gone through a nightmare of this injury and I've been working so hard, and it's unfair that people are saying these sort of things. So I was really, really, really sort of enthused by his interview with the club after, was it the Doncaster game? The goal to store at Moor Farm about 10 days ago, last weekend before last, and he say that he was, fingers crossed, he doesn't break down again, and he looked like the Duracell bunny yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like everywhere, which is great, which is really good to see.
He looks like like you just said, he looks like that player that's saying to Philip Cocu, look, I was injured last season, you know, I couldn't, you know, and obviously with everything that's went off, like I said, on Juddy Talks podcast, by the way, go and find it on Spotify, YouTube, whatever. I will put it because he's a good mate of mine. But yeah, Juddy Talks, very good podcast, interviews lots of players on there, Derby players. He's got Alan Thompson from Celtic coming on as well. This week, I believe it is.
There's room for all of us in the side.
There is. You know, he's a good lad. You know, so I know he's interviewed Dwayne Holmes, Max Lowe, and also Jack Marriott from Derby. I believe he's also got George Thorne coming on as well. So who would have thought? Him playing? I think it was Call of Duty on Twitch would have got him this opportunity. So yeah, go follow it. Really good podcast. But yeah, just on the Jack Marriott, obviously he said on there that, you know, his mental health was affected by it. And, you know, it looks like now we're seeing this fresh Jack Marriott. We're seeing someone that's put it all behind him and he's gone, this is it. My focus now is back on football and I just want to play. And he's saying to Philip Cocu now, pick me, and I will give you absolutely everything. Because he does that anyway. Every time he plays, he gives everything. But yeah, it looks like a rejuvenated Jack Marriott, which is great to see because we know he's a top goal scorer. And I'm just going to veer off topic here and go, I've just thought about another transfer rumour. Marcus Maddison. You know, he played with Jack Marriott at Peterborough. Him and Jack Marriott linked up so well at Peterborough. He's a free agent. Let's take a punt on him. People say he's got a bad attitude, Maddison. People, just because his chairman did a podcast and, you know, his chairman, it was like he was trying to force him out of the club. He was trying to get him to clubs he didn't want to go to. You know, he said he doesn't want to go to London, so he wasn't happy that he wasn't happy to go to Charlton. And this is, you know, obviously this angered the chairman because he's not getting his money's worth for him. He's getting a loan deal instead of a permanent deal. So this is where the attitudes come on. And now he put on Instagram the other day. He put a video of his highlights and said, "Look, I'm available. I want a club. I just want to get playing again." And a couple of people question his attitude, and he says, "I've no idea where it's come from, or I haven't got an attitude. I just want to play." And then someone asked about his ways, and he says, "I don't know where the rumours have come from. I just want to play football." For me, I'd go and get him. That's
come from the horse's mouth, hasn't it? You know, that's come
exactly. There's always two sides to every story.
Yeah, a friend of mine said to me, and we were in agreement about this. He said, "This is no, like, you know, getting someone like Marcus Maddison, who's available on the free. I know he's not really shone at Championship level, has he? I think he had a difficult time at Hull, but let's be honest, that was a club in free fall, so who wouldn't have a difficult time at Hull? the way they're going. But I think the way that his link up with Jack Marriott in that season, was it 2017-18 before
Yeah.
before Marriott came in 18, summer of 18, I think was just fantastic for the pair of them. If Marriott gets his mate in, he'll be buzzing and thinking, this is a guy who's laid on so many assists. Maddison equally will be, no stepping out of line with Wayne Rooney and Philip Cocu in the team.
Exactly.
Absolutely no chance of that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Nico again said nothing in it. He's been linked loads of times, linked with loads of championship clubs as well. We're looking for a sort of a forward player. I'd get him in on it. I get almost like a pay-as-you-play deal.
It fits
We're not going to sign you if you're not going to play. So work hard, get your fitness up to speed, get playing games, and we'll pay you for the games you do play. And we'll give you a 6-month or a year deal. You come in, do the business, get yourself a new contract with us or somebody else, or and we're not going to sign you to a big bumper 3-year deal. Perhaps something like that might work in the short term for both parties. Yeah. It seems like an interesting one that a player, if his quality is out there, for free.
Yep.
And no one seems to have sort of gone near him yet.
Exactly, because people are saying that he demanded 20 grand, and he's saying he's not. Now, obviously, he's not going to get 20k a week with us. Maybe half that, but probably less because he's not proven in the Championship. He got 1 goal in 7 games for Hull. But I think I can't remember. I had it the other day in my head. I had it on transfer market and stats and stuff. But I think he scored something over 50 goals and he's got over 70 assists or something stupid like that in his time at Peterborough. His 3-4 seasons at Peterborough. And we were linked with him. Now, this is what I'm saying about the attitude. We were linked with him, heavily linked with him before. I think it was the Gary Rowett second season. And he was out of contract then. And we were it seemed like it could be a big possibility. But there was no attitude then. He signed a new contract then. Now, this is a guy that's obviously 25, 26, something like that. And he doesn't want to be playing League One football. And I think he knows deep down that he's good enough to at least have a go in the Championship. So, I don't think he's got an attitude at all. And like you touched on as well, you're not going to have an attitude. If you walk into a changing room, giving you the big I am in front of Wayne Rooney, he'll put you on your arse. He'll knock you down. He'll take you down a few tiers. So I personally would take a punt on him.
So would I think, actually. So would I.
Yeah. Jason Ives has got about 6 questions. He's from America. He's one of my American fans. So Jason Ives says,
whereabouts is he from? Sorry? Whereabouts in America? One of the international fans, is he?
He's one of the international ones. Hey, I've got one from Australia as well that's giving me a question.
Have you?
Mate, I'm worldwide now, mate. I'm worldwide.
Taking off all the Mr. Worldwide. You look like Pitbull as well.
Oh, yes! Get in. Daddy! Someone said that, honestly. Yeah, I used to get called Pitbull. My sister still does it now. She still says, "Hey, Pitbull's in the house. Mr. Worldwide's in the house." But yeah,
fantastic.
But yeah, he says, "Why do Derby choose to be so secretive about player injuries? What's the advantage in being that way? It seems to just subject the players to unneeded criticism from fans." So that sort of touches on the Marriott thing. Yeah, they do seem to be a bit secretive because we've had Waghorn that's not played pre-season.
Well, it's interesting you say that because obviously Martin has tweeted tonight. He tweeted at 6:10 earlier on saying it's gutted not to be out there with the lads at the moment, but working hard to be back fit as soon as. And he's posted a picture of him in training. I don't know when it was, but he has obviously been training. He's wearing a new the really smart blue training top, which I want. If anybody's listening and wants to buy me. So he's not being secretive. So he's obviously come out and said. Tom Lawrence obviously isn't back fit after did he do his shoulder?
Shoulder against Leeds, weren't it?
And it was 3 of them. And Rooney was injured for yesterday for Sheffield United, but is he involved with Soccer Aid on Sunday?
He is, yeah. He won't be playing the Barrow game because he is with Soccer Aid, isn't he? But yeah, I know what he's saying there. I think it does. Whether it's injuries or whether it's transfers or whatever, it does seem like the club is rather secretive. And yeah, when you don't hear anything from the club, it can sort of make you feel a bit nervous, I suppose.
Well, I just think that we probably don't feel that I have to disclose everything, and perhaps you don't want to give teams the upper hand or something like that. I'm not sure. It's their prerogative. Yeah. They're their players, aren't they? So, social media obviously is good for that because Wagon can come out and address it all, can't he? And he's put a few minds to rest there. Certainly mine.
Yep, definitely. So his next one is, if we don't sign a striker, would you consider playing Rooney as a 9?
It's interesting that.
Yes, I would. To be honest, I think we saw Koku push him further upfield last season a few times. Whether it'd be as effective as he was as United, but when you're playing 10, 15 minutes there, it's not going to be really effective, especially if you know what I mean, if we're chasing the game or whatever and they're just lumping balls forward. I think I'd play him there. Especially, can you imagine Rooney playing with Marriott up top?
I would like to see it just once.
I
would like to see it
just to put it out there,
just once. Yeah, just to see, just so we can all just so we can not think, oh, imagine what if I've never played Rooney as a 9. But I would like to see him up front. To be honest, but I think given the demands that Koku puts on the players to lead the press from the front, obviously, that's probably not going to play. That's not Wayne Rooney's skill set, is it? It's and he's not really running the channels either, is he?
No.
He's more suited to that number 10 role, I guess, which is where he's played a few times, or that number sort of like 6 or 8 in the middle where he can just dictate play with the younger. He'd say to the younger lads, "Do the running. I'm not here for running."
Yeah. Well, in fairness, he said on TalkSport the other day that the fitness coach has absolutely been battering him, and now there's been. I remember after lockdown, it looked like he put weight on again. But then in pre-season, he looks like he's dumped a load of it, to be honest.
Was he?
Yeah, so I think fitness was an issue. We all know we didn't, and I'm sure he'll know as well. He'll probably criticise performances more than we will, but he wasn't up to scratch after we came back after the lockdown thing, was he? So as long as he's working on his fitness, if he's fit and if Koku decides to put him as number 9, then yeah, I'd love to see him there with Marriott. And then his last question is. Oh, you'll like this one. It says, the last 3 seasons, 20, 20, and 17 wins last season. How many wins this season? Oh.
20, 20, and 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's not really enough, is it? That's the problem. That's why we've only just scraped 6 for, finished 9th in last season, because we need to win in a few more of those games. It's a really good question, and one that it's hard to pop and flick in. I say 21.
21. He's gone up.
Yeah, better than the last.
That's guaranteed
week.
Playoffs. I would have thought.
That gets you 66. That gets you 66 points, doesn't it? And if you draw a few more, that gets you in. If you get, what do you normally need? About 73, 74 points for the playoffs, or whatever it was. Season just gone, which was a very low number. I think we need to make sure that we win more games on the road. I think obviously that horrendous away form last season, even if we did just convert a couple of those victories and draws or losses. I mean, that Barnsley game, where we had so many chances. Defended really poorly. If we did just convert a couple of those draws or losses.
Luton as well.
Yeah, of course, Luton as well. Yeah, so
QPR.
Yeah, well, because we sat here for ages.
We could just count
off a list of.
As the old saying goes, if my grandma had wheels, she would have been a bike.
Well, something like that.
And then Mark Coote, we've touched on this anyway, he says, what are both your views on pre-season friendlies in general? I'm thinking it's to try get up fitness levels to be competitive, but not to the level you get injuries. Try players, formations. Should we be worried about lack of shots and goals when it's just a training exercise? Yeah, because that was one thing that Nico pointed out was the last 3 games we played, we've not scored a goal. Should we be worried about it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends because, your pre-season friendlies are, like I said earlier, are just for minutes for me, purely for minutes. You'd like to see players putting good performances in, but I think for me, normally, it's all about minutes, and I don't really read too much more into if we don't score against Barrow or Reading or a couple of games out, then I'll be concerned. But for now, I see it purely as just a way to get minutes in the tank and get players up to speed.
Yeah, Mick Massey sort of touches on the same point. So top clobber on Twitter says, really worried about our lack of creativity. How or what should Derby do to ensure we create enough chances to score the 70 goals needed for a top 6 finish? Are we bringing too many youngsters through at the same time? Is it a scapegoat for it if things don't go right on the pitch? Very, very interesting question, the last point there about the youngsters, because we know that this is what Mel Morris wanted. He wants 50% of that starting 11 to be academy graduates. this season. Is it then a case of, oh well, yeah, we it didn't go to plan, but at least we put the youngsters through? Are we putting them through? Are we putting too many through at once? Because I mean, I look at that Stoke game, which is ideal. I think our best performance probably last season, and there wasn't. I don't think there was any of them. Apart from Bird.
Yeah.
It was more a senior squad.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I get that. I understand the fans' concerns. I know we played a lot of the academy lads towards the end of the season, didn't we? But I think when you've got a crop that were the best academy team 2 years ago when they beat Arsenal 5-2 in that under-18s Premier League Cup final, I don't think any of them are in there for any reason other than the manager thinks they're good enough. And I think the manager has earned, and the club have certainly earned the right to be backed, given how well Lewis Sibley, Jason Nye, Max Bird, even Morgan Whittaker, who set a goal up and scored one on the last day against Birmingham. He's taken a bit of stick, hasn't he, from fans because he's perhaps not quite looked up to it. But he has. It is hard for a player who, he banged them in at academy level, didn't he? But it's hard for a player who's a striker to kind of get to thrown straight into Championship football and they expect to set the world alight. I think the problem as fans that perhaps we have is we don't want to expect too much of the next 2 or 3 players who come in because of the performances we've seen from Sibley, Knight and Bird. We can't hold them up to the same kind of standard. Yeah. And I think that's fair until they show us that they are capable of producing that performance at such a young age. So I'm looking at, Morgan, Jordan Brown. Great to see Jack Stratton on the bench yesterday, I thought. Yeah. He's scored 15 goals, I think, in the academy last season before their season was obviously curtailed early because of the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah. So it's a really valuable question actually from me because you can be tempted to wonder that, but my personal opinion is that the players, I don't think the club are doing it so they can say, look at us, we've not had a very successful season in terms of league position, but we've got all these academy players on the pitch. I genuinely think the manager thinks they're good enough and has every right to sort of be backed because of what we've seen from some of the lads so far.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I can't really add to that. You've thoroughly answered that one. And then Williams 57 Paul. So Paul Williams. I thought I had a quick look at it. I thought it's not the ex-pro, is it?
Not the
Sadly,
Paul,
it wasn't. It wasn't.
No, all in good time.
Yeah, exactly, mate. He says, much of last season showed a lack of intensity, pressing and pace, all too slow and far too easy to play against. The side is desperate need of pace and creativity going forward. Yeah, I think we can agree on that. We do need some pace and the creativity side. I understand what people are saying, but there's players in there that can create. It's just doing it more regularly. You look at Holmes. Holmes yesterday, he did a 30, 40-yard run, took on players, but then his final ball was just off it. But you expect that early on in pre-season. It was nice to see him playing a more central role again yesterday, Holmes. He looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable there than he had out on the wing. So I think, we do need pace. We've not had pace in our side for years. I don't feel we've had a great deal of pace for a few years now, to be honest, going forward.
No. I think it's important. Yeah, that's been well documented, hasn't it? The need to bring a player who genuinely can zip past fullbacks and sort of and deliver a ball, or just drive us up the pitch quickly.
Yeah, we missed that Jamie Ward type player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He literally just picked the ball up on a touchline, bomb to the bar line, and whip a ball in.
And not just his ability on the ball, but that kind of little gamemanship streak in him.
Oh, it's a little menace, isn't he?
I'm thinking of the 1-0 to the Forest fans at the City Ground and that kind of thing. So we kind of need a player who's. I think Lewis Sibley's got a bit of that in him,
Yeah. He loves a bit of needle.
We saw him going toe to toe with Scott McTominay against Man United, and I was really, really enjoyable. I remember when I sort of watched the game and I came back, and my dad, who don't really take a passive interest in Derby too much, he's not from the area, he sort of said that number 40 blonde-haired kid, he was getting stuck in. I said, yeah, he was, yeah. So
he loves a bit.
Yeah, he does. And we need a bit of that. You need a bit of that in your team. You need a good blend of everything, and just that kind of little streak in you where you're not, you want to get inside the opponent's mind a little bit can really help.
because in fairness, I'm not going to like Tom Lawrence gives you a bit of that and all.
Yeah, true.
He's
Tom
a bit.
Lawrence.
The problem is he doesn't do it smartly. He does it right in front of the ref.
He goes far too far the other way sometimes, which we saw
but
after the Reading game.
he's another one that he'll give a little bit of needle. He's not scared to give it a needle. So
the word we're thinking of, we can't say it, but I'm sure you all know what word we're thinking of, but we can't say it.
No, we're keeping it clean.
It rhymes with mouse.
Thomas Hall on Facebook says, question for your podcast today. Are you concerned that Derby have struggled to show a clear goal threat in the last 3 games? I understand it's hard to judge as the team is very mixed. And based on the current squad, what is Derby's starting 11 and what should be our go-to formation? 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 or 5-3-2?
Crikey, what a question. I think I know we've addressed a pre-season kind of thing and I don't tend to take too much stock in that. But in terms of starting, I'd stick for the 4-2-3-1 for now, I think. I'd stick with a 4-2-3-1. I'd start with, are we going best 11 or what we think we'll start against Barrow? Because obviously David Marshall's not here.
We'll go with best 11 with.
Okay.
We'll include Scotland's number 1. It's only fair. It's only right, isn't it?
Marshall in goal, Bogle at right back, Virgil van Mike at centre back, next to Matt Clark. Did I say Lee Buchanan or Max? Lee Buchanan at left back.
Oh, he's got Lee Buchanan at left back.
Rooney and obviously Bird. I'd probably start with Holmes on one wing, Lawrence on the other, Waghorn up front with Sibley in the 10. That just gives you the best balance, I think. I know Marriott's obviously not starting, but he doesn't tend to plough that kind of lone furrow very well. When he's too isolated in that formation. But I think based on what the players we've got at our disposal at the moment and the tried and tested formation we've seen, I personally think that's probably the best 11. That's the 11 I'd like to see start.
Right. See, I'd go for the 5 or 3 at the back or whatever you want to call it. So, obviously, I'd go Rusing. No, I'm only joking. I'd go Marshall in goal. I'm just staring at the pot. That's all I'm doing. Staring at the pot. Now I go Marshall in goal. Buchanan left wing back. Bogle obviously on the right wing back. My 3 centre backs would be Clark, Virgil van Mike, as you put it, and Wisdom. If he's fit, obviously. I know he's played 1 game. But
of course, there's Andrew Wisdom. That's why I like that 5 at the back, because your defensive solidity there is on point, isn't it? With,
it is.
Weir's in there.
And then I think I'd go... number 3 in the midfield. Wowzer. So I'd go... I'd go Rooney and Bird.
Yeah.
Then I'd go Sibley. And then I'd go Marriott and Lawrence up front.
Right. Is that 5-2? Is that 2 sitters, Rooney and Bird, behind Sibley, who are behind Marriott and Lawrence, or is it sort of like?
It'd be sort of like. This I hate formation things.
The thing is, it doesn't tend to be. They can be so fluid as well, can't be? They can drop into a 5-4-1 out of possession and stuff like that. When I saw when I used to watch Nigel Clough's Burton a couple of years ago, they used to kind of start off as like quite a fluid 5 at the back, and then as soon as the ball went into the opposition's, as soon as the ball went to the opposition, they dropped straight into a 5 and a 4, and they became really hard to penetrate that's what Sheffield United did yesterday. When all the players were sticking to their task, they became really hard to penetrate. And that's what I like about that kind of formation. When you have the 5 and the 4, that's two really solid banks if your midfielders and your wingers are on it. And you can break and transition quickly, which is what Koku likes. Yeah. So I'm not surprised he's looked at that formation in great detail.
Yeah, because like I say, with the 5, you'd obviously got your 5 at the back, and then the 3, I'd have it in like a triangle. So I'd have Bird as your holder.
Yeah.
And then Sibley and Rooney ahead of him, and then obviously you got the 2 Lawrence and Marriott up top. So that's what I'd go with. I know you looked surprised, to be honest, when I told you. You're like, what? But yeah, that's the thing. Then in the midfield, we've got so many players that can play there. I just think when I saw Sibley play up top, Sibley's not a centre forward, he's not a striker. People say, he's playing the 10. No, he wasn't playing a 10 role. He was trying to be next to Marriott, and he's just.
I think he looked a bit
lost.
He's the sort of player who loves feeding off those knockdowns, and he's like Lawrence. He needs to be in and around the edge of the box.
Yeah.
Where the ball's going to fall to him, where he can make things happen. He's wasted on the wing or further back. He's like Lawrence is as well, I think.
Yeah.
The formations these days, they don't tend to be sort of like on FIFA where you press 40 and it happens. They're so fluid, aren't they? And players buzz around everywhere. And like watching it makes my head spin sometimes, trying to work out who's playing where. I just get on with it and just watch games.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, Sheffield United yesterday, they were very hard to break down. Chris Wilder's got them drilled ridiculously well. As soon as he got the ball, they dropped to like what felt like two banks of five. To be honest, that's what it felt like. But I think it was more like into a 5-4-1. So
that's what happens when you have a really well drilled team, like I was saying earlier, and a team that will graft all 90 minutes and know exactly what their jobs are. You can't underestimate that in a team either.
No, you can't. Last question then is from Matt Lyle, who's my Aussie listener, my Australian listener. Got all this way without mincing my words. He says, "Hi Simon, I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I've been listening to your podcast since February." Oh, long time listener.
I'm not jealous at all. Living in Melbourne, not jealous.
To me, I'm sorry, but there's too many things that can kill you in your sleep over there. Well, they can't be that bad because my cousin, she lives in Brisbane. She's lived there for years and she's still alive, so it's just had too many problems. He says, it's great to hear fellow Rams discussing all things Derby. Question, what's your prediction for who's your prediction for top goal scorer for the upcoming season? Oh my goodness me.
Well, if the way Lewis Sibley carries on, if Lewis Sibley carries on like, I know it's a lot of pressure to put on him, but if he carries on like he did when he broke through, I mean, there's no reason to see why he couldn't get double figures. At least for us this season, he's played that well.
Yeah.
But I think it'll probably end up being Waghorn again. Maybe he does get a lot of chances created, but if he can work on his finishing and just stick those other few goals away.
Yeah.
Obviously we've lost Chris Martin now, so I think he's probably going to be one of the strikers, Mario or Waghorn or someone. It just depends if someone can knuckle down and get themselves into a bit of a rhythm. The goals could come from Lawrence again, couldn't they? So or another player who comes in. But yeah, you're right. We've got players who are capable of finding the net. It's just creating the chances and sticking them away, which is we were so wasteful last season at times. So it's just. We've got the players in who can create the chances. It's up to the forwards to just finish them off.
My nephew's going to love this one because he always says to me, "What is it with you and Marriott?" He said the other day, "He said, get me on your show." Bless him. Only joking is what he said. But yeah, he said to me, he says, "You're obsessed with Marriott." You think? Because I said last time, I think he's going to be a 20 goal season scorer. With just how he's been in pre-season, if he stays fit. I think I could be totally wrong, but I think he's going to be a really, really big asset and a really big player for us this season. So I'm going to go with Jack Marriott to be the top goal scorer for us this season.
Interesting, yeah. Well, I hope you're right. So he's due a big season. He's coming into the last year of his contract, I think, at the club, isn't he?
Yeah.
Marriott. So he's due a big season for us, and if he can stay fit, touch wood, fingers crossed. If he can stay fit, then we'll hopefully see the best of Jack and. It'd be really good for us, for him and for the club.
Yep, definitely. A lot of questions. So thank you guys for all your questions. And then we'll just last point then, season tickets. You've read this multiple times, the statement from the club about season tickets. What are you making of it?
Yeah, there's still a few questions I'd like to ask about whether the discount or the option you applied for last season is extended on, because I know anybody who doesn't renew still keeps their season ticket for the season after. But there's a few questions I'd like to ask, but obviously I'm sure they'll all be answered in good time. It's a tricky task for all the clubs up and down the country to try and make sense of all of this, what's going on, and try and please everyone. And the club have obviously released their information today for everyone on their website. So obviously we'll hopefully hear a bit more in due course, but obviously everyone's situation is different, isn't it? Personally, me and my mum, we take my grandma who's she suffered a stroke a few years ago, 1 or 2 now, and she's in a sort of mid to late 70s. So we're very apprehensive about taking her to the games, even though I guess it probably is safe, socially distancing and whatever, but we don't want to take too many chances.
No, of course not.
Having got to this point now where we are, again, touch wood, safe and sound, we don't want to take too many chances. So we kind of need to ask a couple of questions with regards to whether we might think about not renewing because it might not feel like it's safe, but obviously it is safe because supporters are being allowed back in. So people have their own apprehensions, don't they? Everyone's situation is different, and obviously the club won't ever be able to please everyone, but I don't envy them whatsoever. It's just a difficult situation for everyone, isn't it? To try and get everyone into games. I mean, would you be happy, Simon? To what would you do? Would you, if you had would you have renewed now or what? What do you think?
I think I would, but I'm not in a situation where I'll obviously go with a vulnerable person. I go with my nephew. He's obviously a young lad, 15, 16. And I think I've seen a few comments, to be honest, on Twitter saying I'm not really bothered about going to a stadium that's not full.
To be honest, I was just about to say the same thing before I asked you, because really, I'm not massively keen. I don't think I'd enjoy it. I just don't think I'd enjoy it. I know I'd love to go and see Derby play.
Yeah, of course.
Excuse me. I'm absolutely desperate, mate, like everybody else is. Like, there's only so many times you can watch it on TV and just don't feel right having no fans there. But 2,500 fans in the stadium, not much atmosphere. Would it be better? Would it be more intimate on a personal level? Would you have that connection with the players a bit deeper, perhaps? Maybe that might be the trade-off. But I can't say I'm massively enamoured with the thought of being one of only 2,500 people at the game and not being able to do all your usual sort of routine, perhaps pre-match. I just I don't think it's for me.
Yeah, because it's not the same as, a lot of people go there, they go socialise, see their mates, have a smoke, have a beer outside before the game. And yeah, you're just going to miss that. I mean, me personally, I'm not the biggest drinker in the world. I don't drink at games because I'm always driving. And I think a lot of people miss that social aspect of going and having a beer and watching the football, to be personally honest. But yeah, I just think, but the thing is, I mean, if we're letting 2,500 fans in, and we're not, all the stadiums over the country, over the globe are getting 2,500 fans in them, we're not seeing any rises or anything like that, then hopefully come whenever, December perhaps, New Year, January, everyone's allowed back in.
That's exactly it. It's an important first step on the way back to normality, and the clubs need the money from the ticket sales, and people who aren't going to matches aren't also perhaps buying a new shirt in the club shop, and they're not grabbing a burger and a Coke in the ground before the game. So all these little revenue streams the club are missing out on. And obviously when you operate a Championship club or League One, League Two, Premier League club, you have certain financial commitments you need to meet. Exactly. To be honest, I know I'm sat here saying that we all know that I'll probably end up renewing and going. Probably. I'll probably be on the phone tomorrow. Your mum say, "Yeah, come on."
Sorry, Gran. I had to renew.
Well, let's just see what happens. There was a few questions that need to be asked, I'm sure. The overwhelming response I have seen has been one of positive, and that is positive. And let's be honest, the only fair way to do it is to kind of let people watch so many games, isn't there? Yeah. That's the only kind of the only fair way to do it, I guess. I think fair play.
I think that's that's the good thing, is that we can watch all the home games. And we get a choice of 7 away week games, I think, weekday games, which is, fair enough. So,
Of course, you get the Rams TV streaming if you get a season ticket as well, don't you, as well? And like you say, the 7 away league games, which will be picked by the EFL. So,
but it means you can now support your local radio again, Radio Derby.
Oh, exactly. And also, obviously, it depends on what the temporary restrictions, when they're going to be lifted. Touch wood, again, it's the third time this podcast might let a few thousand back in by January. I'm not an expert on the disease, so I don't know how it will affect people over winter, when winter flu season kind of thing. But you wonder if he might try and get a few more thousand back in at least before the end of the season. And it all remains to be seen. Obviously, I try not to talk about the virus too much on this podcast, because I know where people might not want to hear it. But it's obviously an important thing we're having to live with day in, day out now.
Yeah, of course. So Final. Oh, I've already given you. You've already given me your prediction, haven't you, for where we're going to finish the season? You're saying top 6.
Yeah.
Top 6. I'm going to say top 6 as well. I genuinely think. I think we can. I think we'll get top 6 this season. I just think. You know what? I like the fact that October is when the transfer window ends, because he's got a great chance to assess his squad. Great chance to see, look, okay, this is what I need. You know, it gives you that chance to then dip into the loan market if necessary. And then obviously the January one will open if we need anything else. But I do personally think, you know, people have always gone about the standard of the league, and you obviously you touched on it yourself. And the standard of the league was poor this season. Everyone's beating each other. So that's the beauty of the Championship, is most people can beat each other, and that's why we love it. So, yeah, I'm going to go top 6. Another year in the playoffs. I can't predict top 2. I generally can't predict it.
I can't either. If Watford keep hold of a few of their players, they might storm it again.
Yeah.
But they've got rookie manager. But Bournemouth, you know, they might yet lose Callum Wilson, Josh King, Harry Wilson's gone back to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Aaron Ramsdale, their goalkeeper's left. Nathan Ake's gone to Man City. They've lost a lot of players and might yet lose more, but they might sign some players to compensate. So I don't see them doing too much this season. Yeah, you could get some surprise, some surprise sort of packages. You know, again, I hate to say it, but Forest, if they use a Matty Cash money to strengthen, they might get a few couple more players, and they've recruited smartly already this summer.
Yeah, be interesting how Brentford do.
Brentford, yeah, they're in the new stadium, aren't they? Brentford,
mm-hmm.
They're going to be up there. You know, Cardiff
again.
Cardiff and Swansea finishing the playoffs. Bristol City.
You can't.
These other teams.
I think one of the ones to watch is going to be Middlesbrough under Neil Warnock.
You can't rule out, you know, Neil Warnock, what a manager he is. I would have liked to have seen him at Derby. There was rumours, weren't there, whispers of him coming. I'd have liked to have seen. I do like Neil Warnock. I know he's Marmite, isn't he? But I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, he is. Who would have thought we would have ended a podcast on praising Neil Warnock?
Yeah, who would have thought?
Hey. But yeah, that's the end of the show, guys. Thank you to all those that got involved, got your questions in. I hope you enjoyed the show. As usual, I'm at Ramswriter on Twitter. You are
at Richard Cusack BM on Twitter as well, and on Facebook.com/Richard Cusack BM. Derbyshire Live and Derby Telegraph. Everything's on there, guys. So make sure you read and like, retweet, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. You keep plugging, mate. It's fine.
Sorry, I'm still in kind of like Facebook host mode from earlier on.
That's fine, mate. And then, my Facebook, then I've got a Facebook page now. Just search for the Ramswriter Podcast. And on Instagram, I'm the Ramswriter Podcast. Also, if you would like to watch this on YouTube, I am at youtube.com/the Ramswriter. Of course, I'm on Spotify and iTunes or Apple, wherever it is. All major platforms. Like and subscribe on there. Give us a comment as well. That'd be very nice of you. And if you would like to sponsor me, you can visit my Patreon page, patreon.com/the Ramswriter. So, yep. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Remember to retweet this as well. Share it amongst your friends. We're growing week in, week out. It's been brilliant. Richard, thank you for coming on the show again. Absolute pleasure to have you.
Cheers, Si. Pleasure. Thank you very much, mate.
Season starts in 3 days and counting. And as usual, guys, I shall see you next time. Come on, Derby.